Half a lifetime has passed, and I realize that peace isn't about running away, but about knowing when to stop. Perhaps all of us have, at some point, wondered what truly brings happiness to this life. Is it money, fame, praise, or the admiring glances of others? I once believed this, and so I spent half my life chasing after things that are inherently never still. Only when I stopped and looked back did I see that the path I had traveled left too many scratches on my soul. There were days I thought I was living, but in truth, I was only trying to survive. Waking up in the morning brought worries that hadn't yet faded. Closing my eyes at night brought thoughts that hadn't yet been assuaged. Amidst the bustling flow of life, I felt like a small leaf drifting lost in a sea of people, bumping, pushing, getting hurt, then stitching up my pain with forced smiles. Perhaps everyone has such periods in life when the laughter on the outside cannot conceal the sighs within. But then one day, when all the noise subsided, when the street lights no longer excited me, I realized that living tranquilly isn't about giving up, but about knowing how to let go of what's unnecessary to preserve inner peace. Peace isn't the absence of storms, but learning to stand firm amidst life's swirling winds, as serene as a morning cup of tea. Only when we let it rest does its fragrance spread like a still lake. Only when there are no ripples can we see our own reflection within. Life is the same. The more we struggle, the more we try to grasp, the more we lose the most precious thing: inner peace. Half a lifetime has passed, and I understand a simple truth. Serenity isn't the absence of worries, but maintaining an undisturbed heart amidst them. There were things we considered important in our youth that later turned out not to be worth bothering about. We once argued to be right, clung on to be loved, and tried to prove ourselves to be recognized. But the more we tried, the more tired we became, and the further we drifted from ourselves. Now, I just want to smile, pour a warm cup of tea, and quietly sit and listen to the wind weaving through the eaves, listening to my own heart slow its breath after years of chasing. Perhaps true maturity is when we no longer want to win or lose, no longer want to prove anything, but simply want peace amidst life's many changes. Those who understand us don't need explanations. For those who don't, anything we say is useless. Instead of worrying about what others think, let's turn inward and nurture our souls. When the mind is clear, everything outside also becomes lighter. Perhaps people will call us weak or spineless, but in reality, only those strong enough can remain calm in the face of adversity. For the latter half of life, don't blame yourself for what's past. Who in life hasn't made mistakes, hasn't stumbled? We err to learn, stumble to understand, and understand to let go. Life is like a river, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent. Just go with the flow. Don't resist. Because the more we try to swim upstream, the more exhausted we become. Let everything come and go, like the wind through the trees. There may be movement, there may be falling leaves, but in the end, a calm sky remains. Peace doesn't come from how much we have, but from how much we can let go. The more one clings, the more restless their heart becomes. The more one knows how to let go, the more at peace their mind will be. When we learn to live tranquilly, to stop at the right time, the world around us also becomes gentler. And perhaps the real question of life isn't how to be happy, but how to have a peaceful mind amidst this ever-changing world. A falling leaf doesn't make autumn sad. It only reminds us that everything in life has its time to come and go. Similarly, only when the human heart is still can it truly find its way home. And who knows, perhaps in that quiet moment, we truly begin to live. That morning, dew still clung to the blades of grass, shimmering like it was trembling in the gentle breeze of early day. The distant temple bell echoed, lingering, then gradually fading into the serene space. The sun had not yet risen. Only the dim light of dawn seeped through the cracks in the leaves. Then onto the small houses, appearing steadfast. Yet the human heart was not so easily at peace. In a small corner of the city, in an old house filled with the smell of morning coffee and the sound of boiling water, a woman named Huang was starting another day like any other, rushing, bustling, and forgetting herself. Huang, 45 this year, was an accountant in a small company. Her life was simple, but never easy. Every day, she woke up at 5:00 a.m., one hand preparing breakfast for her husband and children, the other packing clothes while calculating unfinished work from yesterday. Her meal was always the leftovers after everyone else had finished. All her care and attention she devoted to others, and the only person she forgot to care for was herself. People often say women are the keepers of the family hearth, but how many know that sometimes they are the ones burned by that very fire? Huang's life was a series of days spent straining to fulfill her duties as a wife, a mother, a daughter-in-law, an employee. She lived amidst so many roles, without a single one for herself. When her children were small, she feared they would lack things. When they grew up, she feared she would no longer be needed. Her husband, it seemed, had grown accustomed to having a wife who always took care of everything, so he no longer felt the need to pay attention to her feelings. There were nights she sat alone in the small kitchen, watching the yellow lamp cast light on the wall, a sense of emptiness creeping into her heart. She wondered for whom she had lived all these years. That question went unanswered. Only the rustling wind outside the eaves and the ticking clock reminded her of time lost. Then one afternoon after work, she felt her heart pounding erratically, her breath heavy, her whole body trembling, her limbs numb. A colleague quickly took her to the hospital. The doctor said, "You have an arrhythmia. You need rest and to reduce stress." She looked at the test results, her heart chilling. All these years, she had worried about her husband and children, every meal, every penny, but had never thought about her own health. Now, when her body spoke out, she realized it had been too long since she knew what it meant to slow down. Stepping out of the clinic, she didn't rush home. She walked aimlessly along the road beside the hospital. As evening fell, yellow leaves drifted gently with each gust of wind. Children's laughter echoed somewhere, mixed with the sound of birds returning to their nests. She walked, tears falling, unsure if it was fear, sadness, or something else, suddenly feeling an odd pity for herself. Tens of years living for others, until her heart grew weak, she realized she had nothing left to lean on. Abruptly, she stopped at a small park, where there was an old stone bench. She sat down, relaxed her shoulders, and took a deep breath. For the first time in many years, she did nothing, just sat still. The gentle sway of the wind, the rustling of leaves, the footsteps of passers-by blended into a tranquil melody. And in that moment, she felt her heart empty, yet also relieved. A soft voice spoke beside her. "My child, it's good to love others, but forgetting to love yourself brings suffering." She turned to see an elderly woman with white hair, wearing a worn brown Ao dye, holding a stack of lottery tickets. The old woman sat on the stone bench, her gentle smile like the late afternoon sun. Huang looked at the old woman, speechless. Those words were like a needle piercing the deepest part of her heart. The old woman continued, "All my life, I was like you, worrying about my husband and children, worrying about everyone else, forgetting that I, too, was a person who needed love. Only when I fell ill did I realize, my child, that everyone deserves to rest, to smile, to live for themselves. No one can pour water from an empty pitcher. If you're empty, why do you keep trying? Huang remained silent, tears falling before she could wipe them away. The old woman's words were like an awakening. All her life, she had thought love was unconditional giving, enduring, sacrificing. But she had never understood that loving others while forgetting to love oneself was the fastest way for the heart to wither. From that day on, every morning, she began to dedicate 10 minutes to herself. She sat on a small mat in a quiet room, closed her eyes, breathed deeply, and relaxed her entire body. At first, her mind was still chaotic. Images of work, children, worries, money kept intruding. But then, with each breath, each inhale and exhale, everything gradually dissolved like morning mist before the sun. She realized that meditation isn't about trying to banish all thoughts, but about letting them drift like clouds in the sky. Clouds can be black or white, but the sky remains still and vast. The human mind is the same. When one knows how to observe, how to be still, the heart naturally becomes clear. In the early days, Huang could only sit for 5 minutes, but then gradually increased it to 10, then 20 minutes. The longer she sat, the less agitated her mind felt. She no longer snapped at her children, no longer complained about her husband, no longer felt deprived. Perhaps it was because she had stopped placing expectations on others and began to learn to love herself. One morning, while meditating, she heard birds singing outside the eaves, the wind gently touching the window. She suddenly smiled. She remembered the old woman's words from that day. Perhaps peace isn't the absence of storms, but knowing how to stop amidst the storms to hear your own breath. Small changes began to occur in her life. She no longer stayed up late, working until exhaustion. She started cooking simple but loving meals. In the evenings, instead of looking at her phone until late, she sat with her children and told stories. The house was still the old house. Her family members were still the same people, but everything seemed to become gentler. Once, her husband asked, "Why do you smile so much these days?" She simply replied softly, "Because I feel content." That simple answer represented a long journey she had traveled, a journey of awakening. The Buddha once taught that only one who knows how to love themselves can truly love others. Because when we know how to care for our own mind, without resentment, without blame, then every word and action we offer becomes gentle. Huang realized that happiness doesn't come from pleasing others, but from knowing how to forgive herself, knowing how to stop, knowing how to let go. One morning, she returned to the park where she had met the old woman that year. The stone bench was still there, but the old woman was gone. A gentle breeze blew, yellow leaves drifted onto her head and shoulders. She gently closed her eyes, bowed her head in silent gratitude. Thank you, life, for giving her a chance to stop, to see herself in a relentless cycle that seemed to have no escape. The sky was clear blue, white clouds drifted lazily, and she could clearly hear her own heartbeat, no longer erratic, no longer rushed. She only felt her heart, silent yet bright, light yet deep. Life was still the same, still people who were right and wrong, still gains and losses, but her heart had changed. When she returned home, she poured herself a hot cup of tea. The steam rose steadily, a gentle aroma spreading throughout the kitchen. She took a small sip, feeling the bitter taste touch her tongue, then gradually spread into a sweet, clear flavor. She smiled, realizing that tea, like life, only reveals its sweetness after one has tasted its bitterness. Peace is not a destination, but a journey. It's knowing how to take a deep breath every morning, knowing how to smile at yourself, knowing how to forgive the imperfect things. It's when we no longer demand that life conforms to our will, but learn to conform to life. The Buddha taught, one mindful thought arises, troubles vanish. One mindful breath calms 1,000 karmic grievances and brings peace. Huang kept that saying in her heart like a small lamp, illuminating every step. Now, even though life still held many things that were not as she wished, there were no more storms within her heart. Huang's story is not just the story of a mother, but also a reflection of countless other women. Women who have forgotten themselves on their journey to please others. Perhaps only when we learn to stop, breathe deeply, and look into our hearts do we truly embark on the path of serenity. If someone were to ask where peace is, Huang would probably smile and say, "It's right within us, from the moment we stop resenting, stop being angry, stop being afraid, and start loving ourselves." That morning, as the first rays of sunlight shone through the window, illuminating the face of the woman who had once endured many storms, one could see a different kind of light, not from the sun, but from a heart that had just opened. A leaf gently fell on the porch. The distant temple bell echoed again. She gently clasped her hands, silently reciting, Namo Amitabha Buddha. In that sound, one could hear a prayer of dedication, a deep gratitude offered to life. Keep your mind calm and your heart at peace, and life naturally lightens. Peace isn't the absence of suffering, but knowing how to smile amidst suffering, with a heart that remains bright, loving, and trusting. And that is what Huang found on that morning of awakening in the park that year, where a new journey began. The journey of one who knows how to love herself. The morning in the small countryside began with the distant crow of roosters and a gentle mist covering the green leaves. In the cool air, the temple bell echoed from afar, lingering in the silent space. That sound seemed to touch a deep corner of the soul, causing the heart to slow down. Each time we hear that bell, we are invited to turn back and look at ourselves after years of weary wandering. Perhaps everyone will eventually reach such a moment, when the heart no longer wants to compete, no longer desires to grasp, but simply wants to sit quietly, take a deep breath, and let everything return to its rightful place. We have traversed half a lifetime, carried countless wounds in our hearts, cried, been angry, resented. But have we ever stopped to ask, among all those things, what truly belongs to us? Often, what causes us pain is not loss, but our inability to let go. We cling too tightly to what has passed, forever holding on to a memory, a sentiment, a word, and allow these things to become invisible chains, binding us amidst the flow of life. To many, letting go sounds like a defeat. But in truth, letting go isn't losing, it's returning. Returning to our own soul, where peace already resides. Like a flower petal, when it falls, it doesn't disappear. It only returns to the earth, nurturing the roots for a new season of blossoms. Similarly, when a person knows how to let go, they no longer suffer, but begin the journey back to themselves. Ms. Lan, the woman whose story we are about to tell, is a testament to this. She lives in a small house at the end of an alley where bougainvillea vines sway in the wind. This year, she is 60. Her husband passed away when she was barely 30. For more than 20 years since then, she has lived alone, quietly, with a wedding ring on her finger. The ring had faded, but to her, it was a treasure. It was a memory of a lifetime, a witness to love, to promises, to all the most beautiful things of her youth. Every time she looked at the ring, she remembered her kind husband. She remembered the afternoons they would sit together on the doorstep drinking tea, and listening to the wind blowing through the banana trees behind the house. Her life passed slowly, like that. Every morning, she woke early, swept the yard, tended to her plants, then brewed a pot of hot tea. Sometimes she sat still for hours, watching the sunlight stream through the window. To outsiders, it was an ordinary life, but in her heart was a simmering loneliness that no one could touch. It lay in every breath, in every falling leaf, in every whisper of wind through the tiled roof. One afternoon, while cleaning the house, she took off her ring and placed it on the windowsill to wash her hands. With just a gentle gust of wind, the ring slipped into a small drain in front of the yard. Startled, she knelt down, trying to retrieve it, but the tiny ring had already floated away with the muddy water. She burst into tears. Her tears mingled with the rainwater, flowing down the dirt grooves. She searched all afternoon, shining a flashlight, digging through layers of mud, hoping for a miracle to help her retrieve the only thing left of her husband. But it was useless. The ring was gone. That night, she didn't sleep. In the darkness, she felt as if she had lost half her life. The room was empty. The ticking clock sounded cold. She recalled every old memory, every meal they shared, every glance, every smile. The ring was lost, but what pained her most was the feeling that he had left again. She blamed herself for being careless, blamed the wind for being indifferent, blamed life for taking everything she loved. 3 days later, a neighbor saw Ms. Lan looking thin, with dark circles under her eyes, stepping onto the porch without strength. She sat there silently. In her heart was a tormenting storm of regret, sorrow, and pain. Everything in the house remained the same, except she no longer hummed softly in the afternoons. The bougainvillea still bloomed. The sun still shone through the tiled roof. But in her heart, winter had arrived. One morning, when the temple bell from a nearby hill rang out, Ms. Lan suddenly looked up. The sound echoed for a long time, spreading through the air, touching her mind like a distant call. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. In that breath, there was the scent of grass, of earth, of memories. Suddenly, she saw one thing clearly. Love was not in the ring. Love had never been lost. It was still there, in her own heart, in every breath, in every sunny morning and windy afternoon. That afternoon, she lit an incense stick before her husband's altar. The smoke drifted up, swirling in the faint twilight. She looked at the photo of her smiling husband in the old wooden frame and softly said, "You are gone. I let you go to find peace, and I, too, find peace." Those words were as light as a breath, yet they were the culmination of more than 20 years of clinging. As the words ended, she felt as if a large stone had been lifted from her heart. The wind outside gently stirred the leaves. The scent of incense permeated the room. In that moment, she knew she had truly let go. From that day on, she no longer wore the ring. Every morning, she brewed tea, sat on the porch, and watched the sun. Sometimes she just sat quietly, watching the raindrops gently fall from the leaves, a strange peace seeping into every cell. People asked Ms. Lan, "Don't you regret it?" She just smiled. "No, because true love isn't in the ring, but in knowing how to be grateful for what once was. When you are willing to let go, your heart will open. When your heart opens, peace will naturally come." Ms. Lan gradually changed. She started going to the pagoda every Sunday, listening to the venerable monk preach. Her favorite was the Buddha's saying, "Only silence is the deepest answer." Each time she heard it, she remembered the afternoon she lost the ring. She remembered the moment she sat in silence and understood. That silence was the answer she had been searching for 20 years. Letting go is not abandoning. It is returning to life what inherently belongs to it. What is yours will stay. What has run its course will go, even if you try to hold on. When you understand that, your mind naturally finds peace, like a river. When the water flows swiftly, it is murky. When the current stops, the water is clear. The human mind is the same. Someone asked the Buddhist channel, "Does letting go make us cold?" I smiled. No, letting go doesn't make us cold. Letting go is to love more deeply. Because when there are no longer attachments, love becomes pure. Only when we don't possess do we truly appreciate. I remember the Buddha's teaching in the Dhammapada. He who overcomes himself is the greatest victor. And overcoming oneself is overcoming stubborn clinging, overcoming the ego that refuses to yield. Ms. Lan overcame herself with that silence. In the days that followed, Miss Lan often meditated, asking for nothing, hoping to meet no one. She just sat still, listening to the wind pass by, the rain falling on the tiled roof. Sometimes she would close her eyes, smile, and softly say, "Let go, to be light, be silent, to be clear, be patient, to be at peace." She didn't say these words for anyone else to hear, but for herself, for the soul that had learned to return. Life was still the same, but her way of seeing it had changed. When she went to the market, she still bought flowers, still talked to neighbors. But in her eyes, there was something strangely settled. People who met her would say, "Why do you seem brighter these days?" She would just smile. "I haven't done anything. I just don't hold on to so much anymore." We are the same. Perhaps each of us is holding on to some kind of ring, a person, a memory, an old dream, a lingering anger. We are afraid to lose it, so we cling tighter. But the tighter we cling, the more it hurts. Only when we let go does everything have room to breathe. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. Letting go is to remember without suffering. Letting go is to create space in the heart for new love to enter. Like a field, after harvesting, it lies barren for a while, then sprouts green rice shoots again. There is no loss, only another cycle of karma. The Buddha taught that when the mind is at peace, the world is at peace. When the mind is chaotic, the surroundings are chaotic. Ms. Lan learned that after an event that seemed small, but was a threshold of enlightenment, loss made her realize that happiness had never actually left. It was just that she was looking in the wrong direction. One late afternoon, she wrote in an old notebook, "The ring is lost, but love remains. I understand now, love doesn't need to be held. It only needs to be remembered with gratitude." The scribbled lines contained a lifetime of experience. Rereading those words, I felt my own heart settle. All these years, I have suffered simply because I haven't been grateful enough. Being grateful for what we once had, even suffering, is the first step of letting go. Because when we are grateful, we no longer demand. When we no longer demand, we no longer suffer. The Buddhist channel believes that everyone will have their own ring loss day, a day when life forces us to learn to let go. Perhaps it's losing a person, losing an opportunity, or losing a belief. But if we look deeply, we will see it as a gift. Because thanks to loss, we understand what we held. Thanks to letting go, we find clarity. In the light of Buddhist teachings, letting go is not weakness, but wisdom. Because only those who understand impermanence dare to release. When a tree is old and sheds its leaves, it doesn't resent the wind. When the tide goes out, the sea doesn't fear drying up. Those who understand the Dharma are the same. They know that everything passes, so they just smile amidst the changes. Ms. Lan had lived through half her life with many tears, finally understanding a simple truth. The most precious thing is not what we hold on to, but knowing when to let go. Just as when drinking tea, one must know when to stop. Otherwise, the cup will overflow. When the mind is full, let it be empty, like an empty cup, to receive new tea. On the last day of that year, Ms. Lan again sat on the porch, brewing tea, watching the smoke rise. The temple bell echoed. She smiled, her eyes gently closed, her lips softly reciting, Namo Amitabha Buddha. Her breath was light, her mind serene. In that moment, she was truly at peace, truly letting go. Ultimately, letting go is an art of living. The more we mature, the more we realize that holding on is not difficult. Letting go at the right time is difficult. And only when we know how to let go can we open up. Like a lotus flower, it must emerge from the mud to bloom. Like night must pass through darkness to see the dawn. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is returning everything to its rightful place, to lighten the heart, to bring peace to oneself. When we let go, life naturally becomes gentle. When we are silent, all things are at peace. There are mornings when the sun has just risen above the coconut trees, its light, thin as silk, spreading across the earth. We hear birds singing somewhere in the small garden, the gentle wind softly touching the leaves, stirring a gentle whisper. In that moment, if we sit still, take a deep breath, and listen to our breath, we will find that this life is inherently complete, needing nothing added, nothing taken away. As long as the heart knows peace, knows contentment, then everything around us becomes beautiful. Life today causes people to chase after so many things. They compare, they worry, they seek to have more, faster, better. But the more they try to achieve, the further they drift from the inherent peace. People say, wanting little is wealth, wanting much is poverty. The more one wants, the more the heart feels deprived, because that wanting never stops. Today, we have a home. We dream of a bigger one. We have a small car. We wish for a luxury car. We are loved. We want to be loved more. Then one day, looking back, we suddenly realize we have gone too far from ourselves. Someone asked me, is living simply living in scarcity? I smiled and said, simplicity isn't having less, it's having just enough. It's knowing how to let go of what's unnecessary so your heart can be light. Only when we know how to stop do we see the beauty of the present. Only when we no longer compete are we truly free. Just like a lake, only when the water's surface is still can we see its clear bottom. The human mind is the same. When we stop amidst life's hustle and bustle, when we stop thinking too much, we realize that happiness is actually right here. There's a story I want to tell you today. A very simple story, but hidden within it is a great lesson. The story of a man named Ong Tu, a lottery ticket seller in the Mekong Delta. Ong Tu was around 60 years old, thin, with a tanned, kind face. Every morning, he rode his old bicycle along the village roads to sell lottery tickets. His bike was so old that the paint was peeling off the back wheel and the seat was torn. But he patiently pedaled slowly, like a faithful companion of time. Every afternoon, when the sun was directly overhead, he would stop under a banyan tree by the riverbank, open his small bag, and take out a lunchbox containing only cold rice and a little sesame salt. Occasionally, there would be a slice of cucumber or a pickled eggplant. He sat there, eating with relish, his eyes gentle and deep, like someone enjoying a grand feast. One day, a young man passed by, saw the scene, and found it strange. He asked, "Sir, why don't you save money to eat something better? How can you bear to eat just rice with sesame salt?" Ong Tu smiled kindly. "It's a blessing to be able to eat, my child. If I eat rice with sesame salt and find it delicious, that means I'm still grateful for life." The young man looked at him and continued, "But don't you want to be rich? Selling lottery tickets all your life, how can you be happy?" Ong Tu smiled again, still in his slow voice, still with eyes gentle as autumn river water. "If your heart knows contentment, then you lack nothing, my child. People suffer because they always feel they lack something. But I feel I have enough, so I no longer suffer." Having said that, he took his bowl of rice, lightly dipped it in sesame salt, and slowly chewed. The sound of his chewing blended with the sound of the wind, the rustling leaves, sounding like a gentle melody of life. The young man stood silently in the midday sun of the Mekong Delta. The image of the old man eating his cold rice, his smile brighter than the sun, suddenly made his heart sink. After that day, he went home and couldn't stop thinking about Ong Tu's words. Simple, yet profound words. If your heart knows contentment, then you lack nothing. From then on, whenever he felt tired, envious, or felt injustice, he remembered the image of the old man sitting under the banyan tree, eating rice with sesame salt, as peaceful as if he were at a feast in his mind. We often think that to be happy, we must have a lot of money, a house, status, and loved ones. But the more we have, the emptier we feel. Because the true lack is not in material things, but in our heart. If the heart is not at peace, even with everything, we still feel a lack. If the heart knows contentment, even with just a bowl of cold rice, we still feel joy. Knowing contentment is not resignation, but understanding that everything comes and goes according to karma. Having something is karma. Losing something is also karma. When we know how to live according to karma, our heart will naturally be light. The Buddha once taught, "He who is content, though he may lie on the ground, is still happy. He who is discontent, though he may dwell in heaven, is still not satisfied." That saying is like a lamp illuminating a long night of delusions. People today always want to reach further, to climb higher. But they forget that peace is not on the mountaintop, but in the heart. When the heart knows how to stop, life will become peaceful. Another time, Ung Tu told people about his life. When he was young, he also yearned for wealth. He worked as a hired laborer, dug ditches, and traveled far to find opportunities to change his life. But the more he worked, the more he lost: his health, his time, and even the people he loved. When his wife passed away, he sat alone in his small house, looked around, and suddenly everything seemed meaningless. It was then that he understood money could buy many things, but it could not buy back a hand to hold, a shared meal, a familiar smile. And from then on, he slowed down his life, lived more lightly. He said, "Human life is as short as the shadows of late afternoon. What's the point of winning or losing?" Since understanding that, his life changed. He no longer complained when it rained and got wet, but smiled because there was water for the plants. He no longer felt sad when he didn't sell tickets, but rejoiced because he had more time to rest his feet. Every morning, he greeted the sunrise with a smile. Every evening, he greeted the sunset with words of gratitude. He said, "Thank you, life, for every morning I wake up. I have another day to live and to smile." And strangely, since his mind changed, his life also changed. Although poor, everyone who met him felt happy. Although he had nothing, he had everything: inner peace. A neighbor once recounted that Ung Tu lost an entire stack of lottery tickets due to rain. Others felt very sorry, but he just smiled. He said, "It's okay. Perhaps the Buddha wants me to rest early today." His words seemed simple, but within them was a soul that had let go of all suffering. His peace did not come from having or not having, but from no longer clinging. We think that those who let go are weak, But in reality, only the strong are capable of letting go. Because letting go is not losing. It is returning everything to its rightful place. Just as a river flows into the sea, the water doesn't disappear. It just merges into something greater. When we let go, we return to compassion, to the vastness within our own hearts. Let go to be light, be silent to be clear, be patient to be at peace. The Buddha taught that the mind of ordinary people is often agitated, while the mind of the wise is often tranquil. When the mind is tranquil, everything naturally settles. Amidst the noise of life, the one who knows how to stop is the awakened one. Just like Ong Tu, amidst all the hustle and bustle, he chose to live simply, kindly, and in harmony with circumstances. In the morning, he lit an incense stick, clasped his hands, and recited a prayer to the Buddha. In the evening, he washed his face with rainwater, sat under the banyan tree, and watched the sun set. With every exhale, he smiled. He said, "This breath is a blessing. To be able to breathe tomorrow is grace. Sometimes being a little foolish is also intelligent. It's better to be simple and peaceful than to be clever and troubled." Clever people often make themselves suffer through calculations, worrying about the distant future and fearing loss. But simple people just live naturally, think little, and find much joy. When we stop comparing, stop competing, we will find our minds as light as clouds on a mountaintop. Those who know contentment no longer need to contend, for they already have the whole sky in their hearts. If one day you feel your heart heavy, try looking up at the sky. Clouds still fly, wind still blows, birds still sing. Sunlight is still golden. Nothing but you is changing. If your mind is chaotic, the scene is chaotic. If your mind is peaceful, the scene is peaceful. When the heart knows contentment, life naturally becomes strangely beautiful. The beauty of simplicity is not in scarcity, but in seeing the value of every small thing. A bowl of white rice, a glass of rainwater, a rooster's crow in the morning. All are gifts of life. A Zen master once said, "A person who is at peace no longer yearns for the past, does not chase after the future, but lives fully in the present. The present is this breath, this moment. When you eat, just eat. When you walk, just walk. When you laugh, just laugh." Simplicity in action is the door to peace. Let every breath be a lotus blooming in the heart. Let every step be a flower blossoming underfoot. When the mind stops, flowers bloom by themselves. When the mind is at peace, life naturally settles. everyone in life must learn to live more lightly. Not because we are weak, but because we understand. Understand that everything is impermanent. Understand that the tighter we cling, the more we suffer. Understand that happiness is not something we have to run to find, but something we create when we are grateful for every moment we are alive. Like Ong Tu, who had nothing in his hands but a treasure in his heart, the treasure of contentment. When we sit quietly and look back at our lives, perhaps we too were once people who kept running without knowing what we were looking for. But then, only by stopping do we realize that what we need is not far away. It is right in our hearts, in every breath, in every meal, in the smiles of loved ones, in the distant temple bell that rings every morning. And if we know how to be grateful, to appreciate, to live simply, we will realize that happiness has never left us. It's just that we were once moving too fast to see it. I send you a small word as a token of gratitude. If today you feel tired, stop. Take a deep breath. Look around to see the sun on the leaves. Hear the birds on the branches. Feel the breath in your chest. That is enough. Keep your mind calm and your heart at peace, and life naturally lightens. Knowing contentment is wealth. Knowing when to stop is peace. Knowing how to let go is freedom. The morning temple bell gently echoed amidst the lingering mist on the leaves. That bell was like a deep breath, awakening the soul after a long dream. Everything in that morning was slow. The wind weaved through the eaves, carrying the scent of milk flowers mixed with incense, evoking a sense of a past day and a new day beginning. The listener might imagine themselves sitting in a temple courtyard amidst falling leaves and distant bell chimes. In that moment, the heart suddenly quieted. No more city clamor, no more daily struggles, only a breath of peace. We have walked through half of our lives, traversed long roads with sun, rain, happiness, and even pain. We once chased after countless things, believing them indispensable in life, clung to things destined to leave, cried over losses, suffered from attachments. But then, at some point, we realized that everything happens for a reason. And what comes will come. What goes also has its reason. When we know how to adapt to circumstances, our hearts become light as clouds, our bodies at ease as the wind, and peace naturally comes like flowers blooming in the morning breeze. Some people suffer their whole lives for the sake of clinging to money, to fame, to love, to broken promises. But the more they cling, the heavier they feel, like someone holding sand in their hand. The tighter they squeeze, the more sand slips away. No one in life teaches us to let go, but suffering itself teaches us that lesson. When we no longer have the strength to resist the flow of destiny, when everything is beyond our control, then adapting to circumstances is no longer resignation, but a profound understanding of impermanence. In a small alley in a riverside village lived a woman named Mai. She ran a small general store, living simply, kindly, and was loved by everyone. Her life wasn't rich, but it was sufficient. Every morning, as sunlight streamed through the window, she arranged packs of noodles, bottles of oil, and cartons of milk on the shelves, a smile always on her lips. People said her store didn't just sell goods, it sold kindness. Because anyone who stopped by received a warm inquiry, a sincere cup of tea, and an indescribably pleasant feeling. Then, one day, an incident struck like a strange wind. Komai was defrauded by her closest friend, someone who had started the business with her, losing almost all the money she had saved for years. Her small store faltered, debts piled up, and her sleep became heavy. At first, it was shock, then resentment. Each time she looked at the debt ledger, her heart felt squeezed. She wondered why people could betray so easily. Some nights, she sat by the window, watching the moonlight cast shadows in the yard, tears streaming down her face, unable to utter a word. Time passed, but the resentment in her heart did not subside. She no longer smiled when customers came. Her morning greetings became forced. Her store gradually lost customers because people sensed the energy of sadness, like dark clouds covering the sun. Many advised her to sue for justice. She intended to do so, but deep down, something made her hesitate. She was tired of remembering, tired of resenting, tired of a restless heart. One morning, Komai decided to go to the pagoda. It was just a fleeting thought, like a gentle breeze touching her soul. The small pagoda was nestled on a low hill, surrounded by green bamboo groves and moss-covered rocks. The temple bell echoed through the air, causing her heart to suddenly quiet. In that moment, all her burdens seemed to dissolve. She sat silently by a bamboo stalk, listening to the venerable monk preach, his voice slow and deep, like a stream flowing over stones. He said, "What is yours, even if it goes far, will return. What is not yours, even if you try to keep it, will disperse. One cannot hold on to everything in life. One should only keep a calm heart, undisturbed." when a connection ends, even clinging only brings more suffering. Those words resonated within her like a bell. She looked up at the sky, saw clouds drifting lazily, sunlight piercing through the leaves, and suddenly realized that all this time she had lived in resentment, forgetting herself. She had clung tightly to pain, forgetting that letting go was the path back to peace. After that day, Komai decided not to sue. She reorganized her store, swept away layers of dust from the shelves, and cleaned the faded sign. Each small action was a way for her to cleanse her mind. Every morning, she brewed a pot of tea and placed it on the porch, sitting silently watching the mist dissipate, the sunlight shining into the teacup, creating a shimmering light, like a new belief gradually growing. As time passed, she learned to adapt to circumstances. When customers came, she smiled. If someone owed her money, she let them. If someone forgot to pay, she didn't remind them. She said that if they truly needed it, they would surely return. And strangely enough, just a year later, she opened a new store, doing better business than before. People came not only for the goods, but for her gentle eyes and serene smile. When asked about her secret, she just smiled. It's all about adapting to circumstances. What belongs to me will stay. Komai's story sounds simple, but contains a profound lesson. Often, we try to hold on to things that have run their course, unaware that this very clinging causes us suffering. When we let go, it doesn't mean losing. It means returning to life what no longer belongs to us. Just like a leaf falling from a branch, it's not because the tree hates the leaf, but because the wind has come to carry it away. In life, we often hear the phrase tui duin, adapt to circumstances, but few fully understand its meaning. Tui duin isn't about giving up. It's about understanding that everything has its cause and effect, its karmic connection, and its timing. When the time hasn't come, striving is useless. When the karma is sufficient, even a gentle breeze will make the flowers bloom. The Buddha taught that karmic connections are like drifting clouds. They gather, then disperse, then gather again. A mind that knows how to follow these connections is at peace and free, while a mind that forces things will always be bound in suffering. A seed sown in the ground cannot blossom tomorrow. It needs time, light, water, and care. But no matter how much we wish, the flower will only bloom in its season. People are the same. We want everything to go our way. But all things operate according to karmic connections, not according to our desires. True maturity is not in how much we have, but in how much we can accept when we lose. Once Komai understood that, her heart settled. She no longer saw her friend as an enemy, but as someone who helped her learn the lesson of letting go. She said, "Thanks to them, I understood what it means to adapt to circumstances. I understood what it means to let go, to be light, to be silent, to be clear." Every evening, she still lit an incense stick in front of her door, bowing her head and softly offering words of gratitude. Because she believed that everyone who appears in our lives plays a role. Some help us find joy, some teach us suffering, and some awaken us. In Buddhist teachings, adapting to circumstances is also a path to wisdom. Because when the mind is no longer attached, wisdom arises. When we look at life with a mind that adapts to circumstances, we will see that all events are karmic connections for growth. Failure is no longer a loss, but an opportunity to understand ourselves. Betrayal is no longer a wound, but a lesson about human nature. Everything happens exactly as it needs to. Someone asked, "How do we know what is karma and what is a karmic connection?" The teacher replied, "If the event brings you peace, that is a karmic connection. If it causes you suffering, that is karma. When you understand and accept karma, you are creating new karmic connections." That answer was like a lamp shining in the night. It reminds us that suffering is not an enemy, but a mirror that helps us see ourselves clearly. Adapting to circumstances is the art of one who knows how to live. Like water, when it encounters an obstacle, it flows around it. Like clouds, when they meet a mountain, they drift over it. No contention, no resistance, no clinging. Because water is still water, clouds are still clouds. What is lost is only the form. What remains is the essence. Only when a person lives like water and clouds are they truly free. When we know how to adapt to circumstances, our heart is like a still lake. Even if the wind blows, the ripples are only gentle, then quiet. When we accept that everything comes from karmic connections, we no longer regret the past, no longer fear the future. We live fully in the present, like a breath, like the sunlight on our hands. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha once taught, "No one can bring us suffering except our own mind. When the mind is at peace, all things are at peace." And he also said, "The wise person adapts to circumstances like a lotus in the mud, still radiating pure fragrance." That statement speaks not only of acceptance, but also of the belief that amidst the mundane world, we can still keep our minds clear and not be carried away by worldly dust. Komai is different now. Her store is not just a place of business, but a place that radiates peaceful energy. Everyone who passes by feels lighter, as if they've just had a warm cup of tea on a winter's day. She no longer talks much about the past, only occasionally looks into the distance and smiles. If I hadn't lost it back then, perhaps I still wouldn't have learned to let go. And if I hadn't known how to let go, my heart would surely never be as peaceful as it is now. Amidst the hurried pace of life, her story is like a quiet note in a noisy song. It reminds us that sometimes, when we think we've lost everything, it might actually be when new karmic connections are forming. When we stop resisting life, life opens up another path, just like a raindrop falling to the ground, seemingly dissolving, but then becoming a stream that nourishes green sprouts. People often say, "What's meant to be will be," but only after going through many storms do we understand that this is not just a comforting phrase, but a truth. When our mind no longer resists, we can truly listen to the voice of destiny. And in that voice, we find the peace we have sought for so long. Finally, as dusk settled, the sunlight bathed the old tiled roof. Komai brewed another pot of tea, sat on the porch, watching the bamboo leaves sway, the aroma of tea mingling with the gentle breeze, just like her heart now. She gently closed her eyes and silently recited a Dida Fat, like a prayer of gratitude to life, to the one who caused her pain, to the circumstances that brought her here. Keep your mind calm and your heart at peace, and life naturally lightens. This is not just a beautiful saying, but the culmination of a person's life that experienced suffering and learned to adapt to circumstances. When we understand that everything comes from karmic connections, we no longer fear, no longer resent, only gratitude remains. Gratitude for those who come, gratitude for those who leave, gratitude for the events that help us grow. And so, each day that passes is a new day of a tranquil mind. The wind still blows, the clouds still drift, the temple bell still rings, life still flows like a river, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent. But those who understand Tui Duyen, adapting to circumstances, will see that every river leads to the great sea of peace. The autumn wind arrived slowly, gently touching the moss-covered tiled roofs of the small village by the Hoang-Jiang River. On the muddy paths marked by rain, yellow leaves swirled with the murky water, drifting away in the fading afternoon sun. The distant temple bell echoed, lingering through the damp hillsides, mingling with the sound of the wind, creating a sound both sad and serene. In that space, An old story was passed down through generations by the villagers. The story of a girl named Tien Tam, a girl who sowed the seeds of compassion amidst a season of hardship, from which the light of kindness illuminated an entire poor countryside. In those days, the reign of Emperor Qianlong was prosperous, but in the distant countryside, people still toiled in the fields and faced hunger. In the middle of the village, nestled against a small hillside, stood a dilapidated thatched hut. In that hut, Tien Tam lived with her ailing elderly mother. Her father had died early in a flood, leaving the mother and daughter to rely on each other through difficult days. Every morning, Tien Tam carried her yoke to the market, exchanging a few bundles of vegetables and some potatoes for rice. She was a woman of few words, as gentle as the earth. The villagers loved her, for her eyes were always kind, and her smile as simple as the morning sun. One summer afternoon, clouds filled the sky. The wind howled in strong gusts, and rain suddenly poured down like fine whips lashing the thatched roof and the bodies of passers-by. In that torrential rain, Tien Tam was carrying a bundle of firewood home when she saw a thin, ragged man lying collapsed by the roadside. Under the pouring rain, his body trembled, his hands cold and stiff. No one stopped, because everyone feared he was mad or ill. Tien Tam stood silently, looking for a long time. In her heart arose an inexplicable compassion. She put down her bundle of firewood, stepped forward, and covered him with her thin ao dai, then softly said, "Sir, don't sleep here. It's very cold. I'll take you home." Saying this, she tried to help the man onto her back. The rain was still heavy. The muddy ground soaked the road, her feet sinking deep into the mud. Each step was a wobble, but she kept trying. She had nothing but compassion. And in that compassion, a strange strength suddenly arose, helping her traverse the long, steep road. When she reached home, she quickly lit a fire to boil ginger water and dry the stranger's ragged clothes. That night, she stayed awake to ensure he didn't catch a cold. The man was delirious, only occasionally groaning weakly. Outside, the wind still whistled through the thatched roof, but in the small house, the oil lamp flickered like a small star in the dark night. The next morning, the man awoke. He looked around, his eyes deep and bright. On his thin face, there was something serene, as if he had experienced so much in life that nothing could stir his heart anymore. He looked at the girl cooking porridge, his voice soft as a passing breeze. "My child, why did you help me through the storm? when you yourself are poor?" Thien Tum just smiled, her hands still stirring the bubbling pot of porridge. She replied slowly, "Sir, who wouldn't need help when they fall on the road? If I didn't help, my heart wouldn't be at peace. Even if I'm poor, I still have my hands and warmth. How could I leave someone else cold?" The man looked at her for a long time, then nodded. In his eyes, there was a sense of emotion, as if he recognized something. He stayed at her house for 3 days. When the rain stopped, he asked to leave. Before he left, he handed her a small bag, inside which were only a few rice seeds and a piece of paper with a few lines written in blurred ink. "Your blessings will blossom from these seeds." Thien Tum held the bag of rice, bewildered. She didn't understand what he meant. The man walked away leisurely, his feet light as if not touching the ground. Some villagers said, "He is a wandering monk, traveling everywhere to spread the Dharma, bringing the Buddha's words of compassion to poor regions." Others said he was an immortal in disguise, but to Thien Tum, he was simply the person she had saved. A human being who had lain in the cold rain, warmed by her heart. That harvest season, Thien Tum sowed those rice seeds in the small field behind her house. Strangely enough, the rice grew unusually lush and green, the stalks heavy with golden grains like sunlight. Everyone in the village who came to see it was surprised. Thanks to that harvest, she had enough rice to feed her mother and also help several families in the village who were facing hunger. She didn't keep much, only saying that heaven had blessed them with enough to eat, and that they should share with those who suffered. From then on, the saying, "Thien Tum's blessings," began to spread throughout the village. But she didn't claim to be blessed. She only said that blessings are not in the rice seeds, but in a compassionate heart. Years passed. Her mother passed away one autumn afternoon. As yellow leaves fell all over the yard, Thien Tum knelt by her mother's bed, tears streaming down her face. Her mother held her daughter's hand and softly said, "My child, people don't live forever, but kindness remains. Keep a kind heart, and your life will be peaceful." Those words were like a lamp illuminating her in the years that followed. After her mother passed away, Thien Tum remained in the small house. She continued to help the poor and the sick. Whoever needed her, she opened her door. At first, only a few people came. Then, gradually, more and more sought her out. Some said she was foolish for helping others without gaining anything, but she just smiled. Whenever she saw someone with a full belly, someone with shelter from the rain, her heart felt warm. One year, the region faced a great drought. fields cracked, the Hoang-Jiang River ran dry, and people suffered greatly. Thien Tam opened her rice storehouse and distributed it to everyone. When people hesitated, not daring to accept, she just said, "This rice originated from the seeds of a stranger. Today, sowing it back for life is what I must do." It was during those difficult days that she met the monk from years ago again. He still had a thin figure, still bright eyes. He came to the village and entered her small, thatched hut. She recognized him immediately and bowed in reverence. The monk looked around and smiled kindly. "You have sown the right seeds. Your tree of blessings has blossomed." Thien Tam shed tears. She asked, "Teacher, I have nothing but a small heart." The monk replied, "That very small heart is the gateway to great compassion. People often pray for blessings from heaven, but they don't know that blessings originate from a sincere heart. When you see someone suffering and don't turn away, when you share a bowl of rice, even when your own stomach is empty, that is when blessings are sown in the soil of your heart. No rain or sun can destroy that seed of blessing." Hearing this, she bowed her head, a light spreading through her heart. After the drought, the villagers worked together to repair damaged houses. Thien Tam took the lead, contributing her effort and what little money she had to build a larger house, not for herself, but as a shelter for the homeless and orphaned children. The villagers called that place the Tu Tam Tin Vien, Pure Heart Sanctuary. She didn't claim to be the owner, only saying, "This sanctuary belongs to no one, only to kindness." On the day the Tu Tam Tin Vien was completed, the sky was unusually clear blue. The temple bell echoed from afar, lingering and blending with the sound of the wind through the bamboo forest. In the courtyard, orphaned children played and laughed in the sunlight. Thien Tam stood silently, her eyes shining. She remembered all the storms of the past, the beggar fallen in the street, the monk with a gentle smile, her mother with her advice to keep a kind heart, all like pieces of a large painting where all suffering was cleansed by compassion. People say that later, the Tu Tam Tin Vien became a renowned place of charity. Anyone in the region who suffered sought it out, and anyone lost found comfort. Thien Tam was not rich, but in her heart she possessed a quiet wealth, the wealth of compassion. Once, a visitor from afar asked her, "Madam, why don't you keep anything for yourself?" She just smiled, her eyes looking out at the swaying bamboo grove. "What's the point of keeping it, sir? What you keep will one day also disperse. But if you sow it, who knows? 1,000 lotus blossoms might grow. Those words were passed down. People didn't remember her face clearly, only that in that region there was once a girl named Tien Tam who saved a person in a storm, built a sanctuary in a drought, and left behind the light of compassion in this world. Some say that after her passing, every rainy season, a faint scent of lotus still lingered at the Tu Tam Tin Vien. On the moss-covered tiled roof, raindrops fell like tiny bells. Passers-by would stop, clasp their hands, and softly recite, Namo Amitabha Buddha. Tien Tam's story suddenly reminds us of the Buddha's teaching. A compassionate mind is worth more than a myriad of merits. In life, there are things we give that seem small, but they are the bridge that carries us across the sea of suffering. Blessings do not fall from the sky. Heaven does not distribute grain, nor does the Buddha grant everything. Blessings only blossom when our heart knows compassion, knows how to share, and knows how to put others before ourselves. When we hear this story, let's try to pause a moment. Amidst tired days, amidst the hustle and bustle of competition, have we ever forgotten that we once had a pure heart? Have we ever allowed calculations to obscure the kindness inherent in our hearts? Life is like a river. Whether murky or clear, that river can become clearer if we allow the sediment to settle. Tien Tam was the one who allowed the mud in her heart to settle, so that the water of her mind became clear, and the light of compassion shone forth. The wind of kindness never dies. It might just be a warm breath for the cold, a bowl of rice for the hungry, a smile for someone crying. But from these small things, human suffering lessens. Every time we show compassion to others, we are saving ourselves. Every time we let go of anger, we open a path for our heart to find peace. Imagine a rainy evening, rain falling on the old temple roof. The bell rings again somewhere. In the sound of the rain, it's as if someone softly says, "Your blessings will blossom from these seeds." Those words are not just for Tien Tam, but for all of us, those who are still going through life's storms, still searching for light to guide their way. If one day you feel your heart wavering, remember Tien Tam. Stop, breathe deeply, look up at the sky, listen to the wind. Amidst all changes, only compassion remains constant. When we know how to love, how to be patient, how to let go, peace will naturally come. No need to seek far, no need to climb high. Just a kind heart, and life is already different. Because blessings don't come from anywhere else. Blessings blossom from our own sincere compassion. Keep your mind calm and your heart at peace, and life naturally lightens. That is the light Tien Tam's story leaves for this world. There are mornings when the sun has not yet fully pierced through the leaves, but the temple bell has already rung somewhere. In the quiet space, that bell seems to knock on the heart, reminding us that every day we live is a precious karmic opportunity, a chance to sow more good seeds in the soil of our mind. Life, whether short or long, is merely a journey between two breaths. If in each of those breaths we know how to keep our hearts pure, to cultivate good intentions, then the entire journey will become so much lighter. Someone once asked why some people diligently do good deeds, yet still encounter suffering, while others commit many evil acts, yet live leisurely and prosperously. That question has led many astray, causing faith in the law of cause and effect to gradually fade. But if we are willing to sit down, calm our minds, and listen to the Buddha's words, we will understand. Karma is never wrong. It's just that the time has not been sufficient for the fruit to ripen. Every action, every thought, no matter how small, like a speck of dust, leaves an imprint in the invisible stream of karma. When the conditions are ripe, the fruit will manifest, without the slightest deviation. The Buddha once taught, to know the cause of past lives, look at the present result. To know the result of future lives, look at the present cause. Those words, seemingly simple, are the key to opening the door of wisdom. Looking at the present, we see that what is happening to us is not accidental, but the result of countless karmic connections created over many past lives. And what we are thinking and doing today will be the cause for tomorrow, for future existences. Amidst the hurried pace of life, few are willing to stop and reflect on cause and effect. We often only see what is immediately before us, forgetting that human life is like a vast field, where every action, every word is a seed sown. Some seeds sprout early, some lie hidden under the ground for a very long time before blossoming. Similarly, some people do good deeds, but do not immediately receive good results. But blessings are silently being cultivated day by day, waiting for the right moment to bloom. In a small rented room on the outskirts, there lived a young man named Nam, a worker in a mechanical workshop. His life wasn't affluent, but neither was it so lacking as to be miserable. Every morning, he rode his old bicycle to work, and in the evening, he would go to a cheap eatery for a quick dinner before returning to his room. Life repeated itself like this, calm, but with a touch of weariness. He often thought his life wouldn't be anything special. As long as he had enough to eat, clothes to wear, and good health, that was enough. He didn't pay much attention to matters of good or evil, blessings or karma, until one day when his path inadvertently crossed a story that changed his heart. That day, after work, Nam was walking home. On a deserted stretch of road, he saw a leather wallet lying in the middle of the street. He picked it up and opened it. Inside were more than 10 million dong and a few papers. A momentary confusion flashed through his mind. That amount of money was not small for a worker like him. He could use it to pay off debts, buy a better car, or send it to his mother in the countryside. But then, when he saw the photo of a woman and a child in the wallet, his heart suddenly quieted. He imagined the owner of the wallet worrying. Perhaps it was money for the child's tuition or for a parent's medicine. A feeling of compassion arose. He decided to take the wallet to a nearby police station and ask for help finding the owner. That evening, when he returned to his rented room, his heart felt strangely light. He didn't think much about it, only found that he slept better. His dreams more peaceful. The next morning, someone came to us to thank him. It turned out to be a female vendor. She cried as she said it was all the money she had saved to pay for her child's school fees. The woman bowed and clasped her hands in gratitude. That look made Nam feel an indescribable joy in his heart, not because of the thanks, but because he felt he had done the right thing. Life after that continued normally. But just a month later, while on his way to work, Nam was involved in a traffic accident. A truck swerved, and he fell to the road. His bike was severely damaged, and people gathered around. Everyone thought he wouldn't survive. Yet strangely, he only suffered minor injuries. No broken bones, no serious trauma. When he regained consciousness in the hospital, seeing the light outside the window, he shed tears. The doctor said, "If you had fallen just a few inches differently, you might have lost your life." After that day, he went to the temple near his home. He sat silently before the Buddha statue for a long time. The temple bell echoed, as if reminding him of something profound. He suddenly remembered the abbot's words from when he had accompanied a friend to the temple the previous year. "Sow good, and good fruits will naturally ripen. Blessings come without asking. Just keep a kind heart, and blessings will follow you." At the time, he had heard, but not understood. Now, amidst the thin line between life and death he had just crossed, he truly absorbed it. Perhaps, thanks to the blessings from returning the wallet, his heavy karma was lightened. Nam's story is not grandiose, but it reflects an invisible yet firm law. Every good deed is a small lamp lit in the long night of karmic obstacles. That light shines not only for others, but also for ourselves on our most troubled days. Many people believe that cause and effect is a distant, hard-to-see matter. But in reality, it is present in every breath, every gesture. When we initiate a good thought, the heart finds peace. When we initiate an evil thought, the mind immediately becomes unstable. The mind is the first seed of all cause and effect. Like the surface of a lake, even a small pebble creates ripples that spread far. Karma is not punishment, but reflection. You reap what you sow. You receive what you do. No one can escape their own karma. But no one is eternally trapped in karma if they know how to turn back, to reform, to do good. The scriptures teach that karma is created by body, speech, and mind. If the body does good, speech is kind, and thoughts are good, then good karma arises, and merit increases. Conversely, if the body does evil, speech is harmful, and the mind is envious, then bad karma manifests, and suffering follows. Every day, we sow thousands of such seeds without realizing it. Just one thoughtless word can hurt others. And at that very moment, we have sown a cause. Conversely, just a small action, like helping someone, forgiving someone, is also sowing good seeds. If we look closely at life, we will see that cause and effect is not only in big things, but also in small ones. Someone who is always irritable, after a while, finds that only people who avoid them are left. Someone who knows how to speak kindly, though not rich, always finds help in times of trouble. That is cause and effect. No need to look far. Blessings and karma are two parallel streams. When we do good deeds, blessings arise. When we create bad karma, blessings diminish. Human life is like a jar holding water. If we continuously pour in drops of kindness, the jar will gradually fill with light. If we only pour in bad thoughts, the jar will turn cloudy. Blessings do not come spontaneously. They are created by small actions. A sincere smile, a moment of yielding, a compassionate thought. The Buddha taught that a blessed person sees light even when walking in darkness. A person without blessings, even in a bright place, makes themselves dim. That saying makes us understand that blessings are not just wealth, not just external luck, but a benevolent energy that surrounds us, helping us overcome adversity while maintaining a peaceful mind. Nam, after that accident, seemed to have changed. He no longer complained about his fate, no longer worried about gains or losses. Every morning, he woke early, boiled water for tea, and watched the sun stream through the window. He was grateful to still be alive, to still be breathing, to still see the sunrise. Some evenings, he went to the temple to listen to the chanting, his heart as light as drifting clouds. He realized that happiness is not having a lot of money, but having a peaceful mind. He understood that blessings are not something to be begged for, but something to be sown. Sown with a sincere heart, with good deeds, with faith in what is right. He began to slow down, to spend time helping others, to listen instead of arguing, to smile instead of resenting. And strangely, good things naturally started to come. His work was more favorable, his health better, his mind more peaceful than ever. When we know how to sow a good thought every day, life will gradually have fewer storms. Good thoughts are like an umbrella, protecting us from getting wet in the sudden downpours of karmic retribution. Old karma may still exist, but when blessings are deep enough, the winds of karma will only blow gently. No one can carry our karma for us, but everyone can change their own karma by cultivating their mind and character. In the evenings, when the sun set, we suddenly realize that time is truly impermanent. A day past is a part of life less. If we use that day to sow good, our life becomes more peaceful. If we use it to harbor resentment, we only bring suffering upon ourselves. Sometimes we cannot change the whole world, but just by changing one thought in our mind, the world is different. When our mind is kind, everything around us becomes lighter. When our mind is malicious, even a small matter turns into suffering. Karma not only teaches us about the universe's fairness, but also teaches us to be responsible for ourselves. Because every thought that arises today is a seed sent into the future. If we sow good, the future will blossom. If we sow evil, the future will turn into rainstorms. Therefore, let us learn to see everything through the eyes of cause and effect, so as not to blame others, not to resent life, not to fear suffering. Because we understand that suffering comes to repay, to cleanse, to lighten. Many people, when facing adversity, often complain, "Why doesn't the Buddha help?" But the Buddha has already helped by showing us the law of cause and effect. If we do evil and then pray to escape suffering without changing our minds, it's like someone who is sick, but only prays for the pain to go away without taking medicine. But if we understand cause and effect, know that the root of suffering lies in the mind, and know how to cultivate ourselves from there, then suffering will gradually depart. Every day when we look at ourselves, we should ask, "What seeds have I sown today?" A word, a thought, an action, all are seeds. Sometimes, just one time we yield to someone, one time we don't get angry, one time we forgive, is also lessening bad karma. Every time we are grateful for life, grateful to others, blessings immediately increase. Little by little, these small blessings accumulate into a large field of blessings. When storms come, that field of blessings will be a safe refuge for our mind. Nam's story is just a small fragment among countless stories of cause and effect happening around us. But it reminds us that blessings and karma are both created by ourselves. No one else bestows or takes them away. If today we choose to live kindly, choose to learn to calm our minds, then tomorrow, no matter how stormy, we can smile and walk through it. Finally, as the temple bell rang again in the silent afternoon, we felt our hearts settle, all worries and competitions seemingly dissolving, leaving only a light breath, only a feeling of peace spreading through the heart. We understood that keeping the mind calm brings peace to the heart, and a peaceful heart makes life naturally lighter. Cause and effect are not far away. Blessings and karma are not beyond our reach. We only need to sow a good thought, keep a kind heart, and this life will gradually transform into a pure lotus flower, blooming in the mud without being stained by it. The morning in the small village, dew still clung to the areca leaves. Birds chirped, calling the new day. A cool breeze swept through the bougainvillea vines, carrying the scent of earth after the rain. In that scene, Ms. Moy sat on an old wooden chair, holding a hot cup of tea, her eyes looking out at her small garden. The plot wasn't wide, just a row of vegetables, a line of banana trees, an old mango tree. But under her hands, it was green year-round. The striped cat curled up at her feet, occasionally stirring. The yellow dog dozed near the door, wagging its tail softly as it heard her talk. Ms. Moy's life flowed like a small stream, slow and peaceful. At 70, she was no longer burdened by much. Her children had their own families. She chose to live alone in the small house her parents left her. People asked why she didn't live with her children to avoid loneliness. She just smiled and said, "Where there is quietude, there is Buddha. Where the heart is at peace, that is home." Every morning, she woke early, recited a short prayer, brewed a pot of tea, then went to the garden to tend her vegetable rows. Neighbors passing by always greeted her, for they knew her garden always had fresh vegetables, fresh flowers, and a gentle smile. Many came asking for vegetables, and she never refused. Some gave her back a little cake, a little rice, and she would clasp her hands in thanks. In the afternoon, she would go to the village communal house to sweep leaves and clean the statues, silently, like the wind passing without a sound. Everyone in the village respected her. They said she was blessed because she lived simply and always had good luck. Last year, she fell in the ward, falling so hard that everyone thought she broke her arm. Yet she only had minor scrapes. Once she had a fever, intended to go to the hospital, but it was gone after one night. She just smiled. Perhaps the Buddha cares for me, so I suffer less. People asked her secret to being like her. She just said, "Believe in cause and effect. Live kindly. Help others whenever you can. Don't resent anyone. Don't covet anyone's possessions. That's all." Her words, though seemingly simple, contained a treasure trove of blessings and virtues. Blessings are not something high and distant, not money or fame, but a benevolent energy radiating from the heart. A blessed person is loved wherever they go, and everything they do goes smoothly. A person without blessings, even in a wealthy place, feels uneasy. Blessings are the inner light, the warmth of kindness, the clarity of a soul without resentment. A truly blessed person has 5 signs, and each sign is within our reach. The first sign is deep faith in cause and effect. When there is faith in cause and effect in the heart, we will naturally know how to adjust our thoughts and actions. Ms. Moy wasn't highly educated, didn't know many scriptures, but she believed that doing good would result in good, and doing evil would bring suffering. Because of her faith in cause and effect, she never competed or contended with anyone. Once, a neighbor accidentally cut down a banana tree in her garden. The person came to apologize, and she just smiled. "It's okay. If the tree falls, we'll plant another. What's important is not to let your heart fall with it." This very faith allowed her to live serenely. When there is faith, the heart no longer harbors resentment, and from there, blessings begin to form seeds. Faith in cause and effect is not superstition, but understanding that this life has its own law of operation, fair, yet compassionate. When we sow good, the universe will respond with good. When we sow evil, suffering will find us to teach us. One who understands cause and effect will not do evil, will not fear evil, but will live rightly and keep their heart pure. The second sign is having the Buddha in one's heart. Having the Buddha doesn't mean just worshiping statues at home, but allowing the light of compassion to be present in every thought. Ms. Moy chanted the Buddha's name every day, not to pray for wealth or longevity, but to keep her mind peaceful. She said, "Chanting the Buddha's name is like blowing away dust from the heart. Each recitation is a cleansing of worries. When the Buddha is in your heart, you are no longer lonely, because the Buddha is wisdom, compassion, and patience. A person with the Buddha's heart looks at others with empathy, speaks words as gentle as the wind, and performs good deeds like flowing water, like a lamp. When there is light in the heart, outer darkness cannot invade. Having the Buddha in one's heart means being grateful for life, grateful for people, knowing that everything that comes to them is karmic connection. When the Buddha is in the heart, even living alone is not lonely, because every breath is already a scripture, every step is already a practice. The third sign of a blessed person is escaping danger. Many people think this is luck, but in reality, it is accumulated blessings from good deeds sown. Sometimes, thanks to a small good deed, heavy karma becomes light. Great suffering becomes nothing. Like Ms. Moy falling without breaking bones, getting sick, but recovering by herself. All are results of blessings. When blessings are sufficient, calamities come only like a passing breeze. Karma still exists, but blessings are the armor that protects. The Buddha taught that one who knows how to do good, to help others, to repent, will have blessings protecting their body. Having blessings means having an invisible protective energy that helps us go through difficulties and still remain at peace. A person lacking blessings, even in a peaceful place, still feels anxious because their karma has not been resolved. A blessed person does not need to show off, because the more blessings one boasts about, the more they diminish. They quietly do what is right, trusting that everything has its karmic connections. When one knows how to keep a kind heart, blessings will naturally follow like a shadow. The fourth sign is meeting noble people. Noble people are not always rich or powerful. Sometimes they are simply someone who helps us realize the right way to live. Ms. Moy recounted that when she was young, she used to resent life for its hardships, thinking her fate was unfair. Once, she met a venerable monk during a temple visit. The monk said, "No one in life is always happy, nor always suffering. When the mind is kind, good karmic connections will come." Those words changed her. She stopped resenting, began to live kindly, helped others, and nurtured the land. Many years later, looking back, she realized her life had become brighter. Meeting noble people is not accidental. It is the fruit of good karma. When we develop a kind heart, noble people naturally seek us out, because a kind heart is light, and light always attracts good things. The fifth sign is a peaceful heart. This is the highest sign of a blessed person. A peaceful heart means knowing how to accept everything that comes, without extremism, without hatred, without discrimination. Ms. Moy once said, "Life is like a cup of tea, sometimes hot, sometimes cold, sometimes bitter, sometimes sweet. Only by drinking it all can the heart find peace." When the mind is peaceful, all adversities become gentle. A peaceful person looks at life with a smile, without complaining of suffering, without arguing, without blaming heaven. When faced with sadness, they silently recite the Buddha's name, then smile again. Peace is not the absence of waves, but maintaining clarity amidst the waves. The Buddha taught that a peaceful mind leads to clear wisdom, and clear wisdom naturally generates blessings. A blessed person is not one who does not encounter suffering, but one who knows how to smile in suffering, knows how to be grateful even for difficulties, because they help us grow. They understand that everything that happens has meaning. Ms. Moy lost her husband when she was only 40, raising 2 children alone. Many years later, looking back, she said, "If I hadn't gone through that suffering, I wouldn't have understood the value of peace." This very peaceful heart gave her blessings. Blessings do not come from luck, but from the attitude we choose when facing life. Every time someone visited, Ms. Moy would pick some vegetables, brew a pot of tea, and tell stories of cause and effect. Someone asked her, "Aren't you afraid of being lonely?" She smiled gently. "With the Buddha in my heart, how can I be lonely? With faith, how can I be afraid?" the listeners felt their hearts lighten, as if bathed in a cool stream. Perhaps that's why everyone who came to her house felt at ease. In that simple house, the scent of incense lingered. Wind chimes tinkled, and the plants swayed as if also smiling. The Buddha taught that a blessed person is one who is grateful. Grateful to parents for giving birth. Grateful to teachers and friends for teaching. Grateful even to those who have hurt them, because they help us learn the lesson of forgiveness. When we are grateful, the heart no longer harbors resentment, but only gratitude. And when the heart is full of gratitude, blessings immediately arise. Blessings are not actually in external things, but in the benevolent energy within your heart. Some people are wealthy, but always uneasy. That is because their mind is not yet kind. Some people are poor, but serene. That is because the blessings in their heart are already full. A blessed person does not need to ask for anything, because they already have everything in their peace. As evening fell, the last rays of sunlight spread over Mrs. Moy's garden. The vegetable leaves trembled. The distant temple bell echoed. She sat still, hands gently clasped, silently reciting the Buddha's name. Each sound seemed to blend with the wind, spreading far across the sky as flocks of birds flew back to their nests. She watched them, smiling gently, perhaps in her heart. There was nothing left to worry about. Life came. She welcomed it. Life went. She bid it farewell. Like the river still flowing, like the wind still blowing, like the clouds still drifting. Blessings are not actually in some distant place, but right in every breath, in every smile, in every small daily action. When we know how to live kindly, to believe in cause and effect, to love, then blessings will naturally blossom. Blessings do not come all at once, but little by little, day by day, hour by hour, silently, like sunlight seeping through the leaves, warming the heart of a kind person. Everyone in life will eventually grow old and pass away. But a blessed person leaves behind the fragrance of kindness, while an unblessed person leaves behind the lingering echoes of suffering. So let us live in such a way that with each passing day, we feel our hearts lighter, our minds clearer, and our love greater. That is the greatest way to accumulate blessings. When we have deep faith in cause and effect, have the Buddha in our hearts, know how to live kindly, meet noble people, and maintain a peaceful mind, then, no matter how life changes, we will stand firm. Because blessings are not outside in the world, but right within our hearts. When night falls, the moonlight streams onto the porch, illuminating Ms. Muoy's small altar. The gentle incense, smoke wafts, and she softly clasps her hands, whispering, Namo Amitabha Buddha. Her small recitation is like a dewdrop falling, like a passing breeze, but within it is an entire pure soul, a serene life. Keep your mind calm and your heart at peace, and life naturally lightens. Where are blessings? Right where we know how to love and how to live kindly. As the afternoon sunlight softened, Ms. Muoy's garden became strangely tranquil. The wind weaving through the vegetable rows sounded like the breath of the earth. A yellow leaf gently fell, touching the worn brown ao dye hanging on the porch post. In that tranquility, one could feel a very gentle energy, the kind that only those who live slowly and kindly can radiate. Miss Muoy still sat there, pouring a cup of tea, her eyes gentle, her lips smiling, saying, Blessings are in the heart, not in the outside world. Her words echoed like the lingering sound of the previous part, reminding us that blessings are not just about having a lot, but about knowing contentment, peace, and how to let go. And it is precisely when our heart knows peace that everything that comes after becomes a lesson for growth. The Buddhist Dharma channel pauses so that the temple bell within the heart can resonate for a while. Then the narration settles down like a gentle breeze gliding over the water's surface. Perhaps when speaking of blessings, people often think of good things, but few know that to retain blessings, one must know patience and silence, because blessings without virtue are like flowers blooming in the mist, beautiful, but quickly fading. Virtue without patience is like a lamp shining in the wind, flickering and easily extinguished. Just like Ms. Muoy, who lived kindly, without contention or competition, because she understood that sometimes not speaking is the most powerful statement, and not reacting is the strongest reaction. Life can sometimes be so noisy that we forget the value of silence. We chase after work, arguments, and competition. And each time, the mind collects another layer of dust. We forget that in silence there is the voice of wisdom, and in patience there is the strength of compassion. Many people think patience is endurance, a weakness, but the Buddha taught that patience is the energy of one who understands that everything has its karmic connection, understands that whoever does what is being led by their own karma, understands that a spoken word can save a life and can also wound a soul for an entire lifetime. Therefore, a truly blessed person is not wealthy or powerful, but one who knows how to keep their mind undisturbed when life brings storms. The story of young Min began from such storms. Min was a young student, intelligent, but hot-tempered. He easily got angry when someone went against his wishes, easily got sad when things didn't go his way. Min's kind mother often reminded him to be patient and listen. But the more he listened, the more irritated he felt. He told his mother that in life, if he was always patient, people would bully him. If he stayed silent, who would understand his heart? Then, one time, he argued with his best friend over a misunderstanding, so angry that he skipped school for several days. One afternoon, as his anger was subsiding, Min went to Lin An Pagoda on the hill. It was a windy day, leaves scattered across the temple courtyard. The temple bell echoing from the main hall suddenly quieted his heart. Master Bin Hien, the old monk, was sitting and pouring tea. Seeing Min, the master smiled and invited him to sit. Min began to tell his story, his voice still full of irritation. The monk said nothing, just quietly poured more tea into the cup. The hot water overflowed, startling Min. The monk gently said, "If the cup is already full, can you still pour more in?" Min was silent. The monk looked at him, his eyes kind and deep, and said, "Your mind is also like that cup of water. If you keep it full of anger and attachment, how can wisdom enter?" In that moment, Min felt as if he had been awakened. From childhood, he had never thought that silence could be a way to understand. He always wanted to prove himself, to explain, to argue until he won. But the more he argued, the more he lost. The more he talked, the more he lost peace. He began to learn to listen to the wind blowing through the temple courtyard, to the sound of leaves falling onto the tiled roof, and even to the sound of his own heart slowing down. In that stillness, he understood that sometimes silence is not defeat, but triumph over oneself. From that day on, Min often returned to the temple. Each time he came, he no longer complained, just sat on the porch, watching the old monk pour tea, gazing at the smoke spreading faintly in the early morning. He realized that only when the mind is at peace does the tea taste fragrant. Only when the heart is still does life reveal itself clearly, like a fragrance. And then, strangely, the people who had misunderstood him gradually returned, apologized, and reconciled. He no longer had to speak up. It was the energy of peace within him that transformed everything. As the Buddha taught, If the mind is pure, all things settle themselves. That story sounds simple, but contains a profound lesson about cultivating the mind. People easily misunderstand patience as giving up and silence as weakness. But those who study the Dharma know that patience is upholding virtue, and silence is cultivating the mind. When the mind knows patience, words become gentle, and actions become clear-sighted. One who knows how to be silent in the face of gossip is one who has overcome their ego. One who knows how to be still amidst storms is one who has opened up wisdom. Because what makes us suffer is not external events, but our internal reactions. If our mind is undisturbed, suffering cannot touch us. Once, Min asked the monk, "How can I maintain a peaceful mind in all matters?" The monk pointed towards the lotus pond at the foot of the temple. The water was still, lotuses bloomed profusely, bees and butterflies flew around. The monk said, "Look at that pond. If the wind blows strong and the water moves, the lotus still stands firm. Why? Because its roots are deeply embedded in the mud. People are the same. If they have good roots, faith in cause and effect, and a compassionate heart, then no matter how life changes, the mind remains at peace. Silence is not escaping, but turning inward, clearly seeing all delusive thoughts so as not to be swept away. From then on, Min practiced meditation, practiced breathing, practiced stillness. He realized that every morning, just brewing a pot of tea, sitting quietly, watching the sun stream through the window, and listening to the birds in the garden was enough to feel life's gentleness. He no longer wanted to win or lose, nor did he want to talk too much. Those around him saw him change, saying he had matured, but in reality, he had just begun to learn how to live. He understood that wisdom is not gained by much learning, but by knowing how to be still. Virtue is not gained by trying hard, but by knowing how to be patient. Anyone hearing Min's story might see themselves in it. Because who in life hasn't been angry, hasn't wanted to say something to relieve their heart? But then, when everything passes, we realize that the words we spoke in anger are often the words that cause the most hurt. The Buddha taught that a word spoken, if it doesn't pass through the door of compassion, will become an arrow shot back into one's own heart. Therefore, silence is preserving the mind, protecting both oneself and others. When the mind is no longer agitated by praise or blame, gain or loss, victory or defeat, wisdom begins to sprout. Someone asked, "How can one learn patience?" The Buddha taught that to be patient, one must clearly see impermanence. Everything has a time to come and a time to go. Anger comes and then dissipates. Sadness appears and then fades. Holding on to it only makes us heavy. When we know that everything is just a karmic aggregation that then disperses, we no longer want to contend for anything. At that point, patience is no longer endurance, but naturalness. Patience is dwelling in the present, letting the wind blow without disturbance, letting the rain fall without getting cold. A truly patient person is one who clearly sees all changes as opportunities to train the mind. One morning, Min met the old monk again. As the sun rose, the monk held an old teapot. The monk said, "This tea has been brewed many times, but still retains its fragrance." People are the same. Through many challenges, if one can still maintain a kind heart, that is the greatest blessing. Min smiled, bowed his head, his heart light as a cloud. He knew he had understood some part of the meaning of silence and patience. No longer hurried, no longer hot-tempered. He walked down the hill, hearing the temple bell echoing behind him. That echo was like the Buddha's reminder that in stillness there is clarity. In patience there is peace. One who hears the story may see that whenever our mind wants to say something in anger, stop, take a breath, listen to your heart. When you stop, you are preserving blessings. When you are patient, you are nurturing wisdom. Just as the earth endures rain to let grass grow, a patient person endures suffering to let virtue arise. When you meet someone who offends you, think that they are giving you an opportunity to practice. When things don't go your way, remember that everything comes to help you grow. If you can be grateful even for things that cause you pain, then suffering will no longer be an enemy, but a teacher. The Buddha taught that there is a greater wisdom than silence in understanding, and no stronger power than patience and compassion. The one who can control their words is the one who has gone halfway to enlightenment. Because words create karma, mind creates conditions, actions create results. A person who knows when to be silent, knows when to speak, is sowing blessings for themselves. Because silence is the door to wisdom, and patience is the root of virtue. In today's life, amidst the noise of social media, of gossip, of competition, more than ever, there is a need to return to stillness. Let each person try a day without complaining, without arguing, just listening and observing, and you will see life become different. The things that made you angry turn out to be just wisps of smoke passing by. The people who once made you sad turn out to be just teaching you how to love. When your heart has enough patience, the world outside also becomes gentle. When you are peaceful enough, your words naturally have the power to move others. At the end of the day, when the sun disappeared behind the mountains, Min meditated under a Bodhi tree. Insects buzzed. The gentle wind stirred the leaves. He gently closed his eyes and recited a Buddha's name. At that moment, there was no longer right or wrong, no winner or loser. There was only a breath going in and out in mindfulness. At that moment, he understood that peace does not come from the outside, but arises from within, where the mind has ceased its agitation. And as the story concludes, the voice of the narrator becomes light as tea smoke, warm as a peaceful rural evening. The narrator softly says, "Everyone in life will pass through stormy paths, but if one knows how to keep their heart still, to keep their mind patient, then each storm will only cleanse the sky, like a lotus growing in mud, without being tainted by its smell." A person who knows how to cultivate their mind will not be defiled by life. Patience is preserving virtue. Silence is cultivating the mind. When we know how to be silent with understanding and patient with compassion, we will see that all suffering transforms into precious jewels, illuminating life's path. Finally, I want to extend a word of gratitude to you. If in this life you meet someone who knows how to listen silently, how to be patient, cherish them, for they are a mirror of virtue and wisdom. And if you yourself are learning how to be silent, how to be patient, please be patient with yourself. Every minute you maintain peace in your heart is a minute of accumulated blessings. Keep your mind calm and your heart at peace, and life naturally lightens. Recite the Buddha's name in silence. Live kindly with patience. Then, one day, the flower of wisdom will bloom in your heart like a lotus unstained by mud, radiating a gentle yet enduring, small yet infinite fragrance. There are evenings when the wind blows through the eaves. We hear dry leaves rustling together like the soft whisper of time. A cool cup of tea, a distant sky, a soul suddenly settling after years of wandering. Life seems long, but turns out to be short. Those who pass through youth often carry in their hearts the scars of things that didn't go as planned. Some hurt from being misunderstood. Some are tired from trying and receiving no reward. The older we get, the more we understand. not everyone sees the good intentions in our hearts. Not every matter needs to be fought for, because there are things that the more you fight for, the more you lose. There are things that the more you contend for, the more it hurts. Amidst the hurried pace of life, sometimes we need to stop and ask ourselves what truly matters. Is it fame, profit, or a peaceful sleep? A serene heart? Many people spend their lives pursuing what they call justice, but the more they demand it, the more restless they become. For justice in the eyes of the world is never complete. Some realize this early. They choose to quietly endure a little disadvantage to keep their minds at peace. Like gentle water flowing over many rocks, yet remaining clear. This very softness is the true strength of one who understands life. In a small carpentry village in the peaceful countryside lived a carpenter named Ong Loi. Everyone knew him as a kind man. He had been in the trade for over 30 years and had never spoken harshly to anyone. People said the wooden furniture he made was not only durable, but also soulful. Every carved line, every saw cut was meticulous, like someone cherishing life. But because he was too kind, he was often taken advantage of. Sometimes people would order a cabinet, promising 300 units of currency, but when they picked it up, they would only pay 200. He would just smile, clasp his hands, and say, "That's fine, as long as you use it happily." The villagers, out of pity, would say, "Why don't you demand fairness?" He would just smile kindly and slowly reply, "Less money, but peaceful sleep." Those words seemed simple, but contained a profound wisdom. In life, everyone wants fairness, but few realize that fairness sometimes lies not in equal distribution, but in peace of mind. Those who covet money don't sleep well. Those who win arguments don't truly rejoice. But those who know contentment, even if they lose a little, still maintain a smile. In those days, many people looked at Ong Loi and sighed, "He's foolish. In this world, if you're so kind, you'll just be taken advantage of." But as years passed, people gradually realized that his disadvantage actually turned out to be an advantage. Because while many other carpenters quit their trade or made shoddy goods to be quick, he kept his heart in every nail, every plank. His furniture was so durable that some homes used it for over 20 years, and it was still as solid as new. Gradually, people spread the word. For wooden furniture, go to Ong Loi. He works slowly, but you can trust him. And then a strange thing happened. The very customers who used to bargain him down years ago now came back to order furniture without haggling. They said he had integrity, His furniture was durable, and everything he made was solid. He just smiled slowly and said, "Durability comes from good wood, and solidity comes from the craftsman's unwavering heart." I once met him on an autumn afternoon, golden leaves falling in the temple courtyard. He was brewing tea, his hands trembling with age, but his eyes were still bright and gentle. He said, "When I was young, I also got angry. Seeing people take advantage of me, I felt resentful. But then I understood that those who take advantage of others are those who fear lack. While if you feel content, no one can take advantage of you. Sometimes they think they gain, but they are the ones who truly lose." Those words reminded me of the Buddha's teaching. Patience is the root of merit. Resentment is the seed of suffering. One who knows patience has overcome themselves. In Ong Loi's patience, we see a quiet wisdom. Not patience out of fear, but patience out of understanding. Not accepting a disadvantage out of weakness, but accepting it out of strength. Because only when the mind is at peace is it broad enough to encompass things that go against one's wishes. Someone asked, "How much patience is enough?" The Buddha taught that if you still feel you are being patient, you haven't truly reached patience. One who understands the Dharma does not see patience as suffering, but as a way to purify the ego. Like a rough gem, the more it is polished, the brighter it shines. The more a person is polished through patience, the more they radiate a gentle light that naturally inspires respect in others. Ong Loi's life is a mirror for the teaching. Patience to nurture the mind, enduring disadvantage to cultivate virtue. Each time he yielded, his mind grew deeper. Each time he was silent, karma in his heart dissolved. Perhaps that's why he never suffered serious illness throughout his life. His children were harmonious, his home peaceful. Some said he was lucky, but in the law of cause and effect, there is no such thing as luck. Everything is sown by the mind. The kind meet with good, the patient meet with peace. That is not magic, but a law of nature. Like a lake, when the wind stops, the water will naturally calm. The human mind is the same. When there are no more ripples, one will see the sky within oneself. In historical records, Zheng Guofan once said, "Patience is the great courage of a virtuous man. One thought of patience brings 1,000 matters to peace." He was a person of great wisdom, once humiliated, once failed, but without resentment or hatred. Because of this, from someone despised, he became a revered high official. Gojian of Yue, in ancient times, endured hardship and humiliation to nurture his great ambition. Thanks to patience, he restored his nation. Thanks to wisdom, he managed the state. Even Emperor Kangxi, lauded as the wisest emperor in Chinese history, once said, "Without patience, even small tasks fail. With patience, great endeavors succeed." We might reflect, none of those saints and sages had never been hurt, yet they did not let pain turn them into bitter complainers. They let pain temper their minds, making them clearer. Because they knew that people are not defined by what they encounter, but by how they face it. Reflecting on our own lives. How many times have we lost sleep because of someone's words? How many times have we flared up over a small matter and then regretted it deeply? How many times have we wanted to prove ourselves right, forgetting that right or wrong is only temporary? Some win an argument, but lose their inner peace. Some suffer a present disadvantage, but win in the long run, because they maintain a calm mind. Some say patience makes one seem weak, but in reality, patience is the strength of the wise. Like a deep, calm sea, like a mountain, still and enduring. A hot-tempered person is easily swept away by the wind, but a patient person can stand firm against life's storms. When we understand that everything is a karmic connection, resentment will dissipate. The one who speaks ill of us helps us practice patience. The one who hurts us helps us learn to let go. The one who takes from us helps us repay karma. If we look at life with such eyes, we will see that there is nothing to be angry about. Everything that comes is a lesson. Every loss is an opportunity for our mind to mature. One afternoon, I visited the old carpentry workshop. Ong Loi was no longer working. On the table were only a few old tools and a cool cup of tea. But what struck me was a wooden plaque he hung on the wall, inscribed with the words, "A little patience, the wind calms, the waves subside. One step back, the sea is vast, the sky is high." Below, he added, "Everyone wants to be superior. Everyone wants to be right. But only those who know how to be silent truly find peace in their hearts." I sat there for a long time, listening to the distant temple bell echo, the wind weaving through the window, the faint smell of wood in the air. In that moment, I suddenly understood that wisdom is not about knowing a lot, but about knowing when to be silent, knowing how to smile when losing, knowing how to be at peace when gaining nothing. The Buddha taught that the wise do not react hastily to everything. They look deeply, understand the root, and then act. Wisdom does not come from books but from experience. And patience is the door that opens to wisdom. Without patience, one can never truly see their own heart. From that day on, I learned to live more slowly, to contend less, to compete less. When someone spoke harshly, I tried to smile. When things didn't go as planned, I brewed a pot of tea and sat quietly, watching the smoke rise. Every breath of tea was a breath of life. Every wisp of smoke, a reminder. Let go, and peace will come. As time passed, I gradually realized that the most precious thing is not winning or losing, but maintaining stillness amidst the fluctuations of life. The patient person is not one who doesn't know anger, but one who knows when to be angry at the right time, knows when to be silent when needed. The wise person is not one who doesn't feel pain, but one who knows how to use pain to illuminate their own mind. If someone were to ask what it means to be someone who understands life, I would say it's someone who knows patience in difficult situations, knows joy in unhappy ones, knows stillness amidst changes. They no longer wish to prove anything because they have understood. The victor is the one who maintains a peaceful heart. When night falls, I often remember Ong Loi's gentle eyes, the eyes of a man who lived fully with his craft, with people, and with himself. He did not let life harden him, but let his gentle heart soften life. Perhaps that is the result of a lifetime of patience and wisdom in this competitive world. I hope that you, the listener, can also find a quiet space for yourself. Don't be afraid of being disadvantaged, because sometimes disadvantage is a blessing. Don't be afraid of being forgotten, because a truly sincere person is never lost. Don't be afraid of loneliness, because loneliness is when the mind is being purified. Just live kindly, honestly, and sufficiently. One day, you will see the sky as higher, your heart lighter, and life gentler. It was late at night. A gentle breeze wafted through the temple eaves, softly stirring the dew-laden bamboo branches. In that quietude, the temple bell echoed like a reminder. Everyone must, at some point, stop amidst the hustle and bustle to look back at themselves. How far have we come, and how are we living? Life seems long, but in reality, it is just a fleeting moment between two breaths. Some people go through half their lives before realizing that the terrifying thing is not poverty, but living forever in ignorance, in habits that silently erode their blessings. Someone once asked me why some people work hard but still suffer, while some kind people still do not find peace. I replied, because they sow blessings with their hands, but destroy blessings with their minds. There are three things in life that seem small, but are enough to completely dissipate the merits of a lifetime. These are sleeping late and being lazy, indulging in sensuality, and nurturing an evil mind. These three things are like three small flames that, when lit in the heart, will gradually burn away purity, causing blessings to vanish without our knowledge. The Buddha taught that when the mind is defiled, blessings dissipate. That saying is not meant to warn, but to remind us to turn back and look at the root cause of all suffering, which is our own mind. In those days, Tuan, a young man of 30, once thought that only fun was enough in life. He worked as a technician, earned a good salary, had many friends, but never felt at peace. After work, he would immerse himself in all-night gaming sessions and late-night drinking parties. Some mornings, he would wake up with his head spinning, his room filled with the smell of alcohol, and his heart empty. His mother once told him, "Tuan, don't burn your youth with alcohol. Whatever blessings your ancestors bestowed, you'll deplete with sleepless nights." He just smiled, thinking his mother worried too much in the illusion of youth. He thought he still had plenty of time to change, but life doesn't always give us a second chance. One winter evening, while drunk, Tun received a call informing him that his mother had been admitted to the hospital. It was a minor accident, but his mother had a heart condition, so this time it was serious. He rushed to the hospital, saw his frail mother lying in bed, her breathing labored, and felt as if someone had drained all the blood from his body. He sat by her bed, holding her hand, choked with emotion. "Mom, I was wrong." His mother opened her eyes, looked at him, and weakly said, "My child, don't make me worry anymore. I don't need you to be rich. I just need you to live peacefully." From that day on, Tun changed. He asked for time off work and sought out a small temple near his home to volunteer. Every morning, when the bell rang, he would wake up with the monks to sweep the courtyard, boil water, and arrange beds. At first, his hands, accustomed to keyboards, now holding a broom, sweeping fallen leaves, felt sore and tired. But gradually, he felt a peace he had never known before. In the sound of the wind through the bamboo grove, in the wisps of morning tea steam, in each slow step, he felt his heart lighten. One day, the venerable monk looked at him and said, "People don't have to lose everything to understand what is enough, but most do. Only when you are immersed in darkness do you see the value of light. bad habits are like a prolonged rain, soaking you without you realizing it. If you want to keep blessings, first, you must stop sowing the seeds that destroy them. Tuan silently bowed his head. From that day, he began the journey of rebuilding the blessings he had lost. He told the monk, "I once burned all my life's blessings. Now I only want to rebuild them, little by little." The first habit he broke was staying up late and being lazy. He realized that whenever he slept late, he woke up with a heavy mind, difficulty controlling emotions, and quick temper. But when he woke early, inhaled the fresh air, and watched the gentle sunlight stream through the leaves, he felt his heart lighten, as if cleansed. The Buddha taught that a new day is a new life. Every morning when we awaken with mindfulness, we are reborn in the present moment. The lazy lose time. The diligent accumulate blessings. Every time he woke early, Tuan recited a small verse. Awakening in the dawn, the mind is peaceful, like the tranquil moon. The second habit he had to fiercely struggle against was giving up alcohol and sensuality, because that is humanity's deepest temptation. The Buddha once taught, "Sensual desire is a pit of fire. Whoever steps into it without being burned." Tuan used to think a little fun wouldn't hurt, but those moments of weakness had exhausted his spirit and clouded his wisdom. At the temple, whenever he saw the monks serene during meditation, he felt ashamed. Once, the venerable monk told a story about a young bhikkhu who had practiced for many years, but was still entangled in sensual thoughts. When he was discovered, the abbot did not scold him, only said, "Sensual desire does not make you suffer. It is your unawakened heart that causes you to suffer." Tuan listened and understood. He realized that temptation is not as frightening as an uncontrolled mind. From then on, he learned to guard himself, viewing negative images as lessons rather than pleasures. The third habit, and the root cause of all suffering, was nurturing an evil mind. Previously, Tuan was easily irritable, often resented others, and enjoyed speaking harshly. He used to browse social media, felt envious when he saw someone more successful than him, and felt satisfied when someone failed. But when he came to the temple, he saw the monks always smiling, even when things went against their wishes. One day, someone came to the temple and scolded the master due to a misunderstanding. The master just clasped his hands and said, "Thank you for giving me an opportunity to practice patience." Tuan was stunned after hearing that. Later, he asked the master, "Weren't you angry?" The master smiled kindly. The person who brings you anger is actually suffering. If you get angry back, it's no different than taking on more of that suffering. During his months of volunteer work at the temple, Tuan gradually realized that a simple life was actually the most precious thing. A bowl of vegetable rice, a gentle smile, a peaceful night's sleep. These things, it turned out, were blessings. Only when one no longer lives for desires does one find peace in the heart. Only when one no longer nurtures evil thoughts does one find clarity in the mind. The Buddha taught that one who knows how to turn back is wise. One who knows how to mend oneself is blessed. From someone lost in darkness, Tuan became someone who knew how to be grateful, even for pain. Every morning, he woke early and meditated with the Master under the Bodhi tree. The birds sang, the wind rustled through the leaves, the water flowed gently like a living scripture. In those moments of stillness, he saw his heart like a clear mirror. Every evil thought that arose, he recognized and let go. Every such moment was a step in his practice. Once he asked the Master, "Master, will I gain blessings from my practice?" The Master looked at him, smiled gently. Practice is not to gain blessings, but to keep the blessings you already have. People are born with ancestral blessings, but if they live recklessly, those blessings will dissipate. When you keep your mind pure, blessings will naturally return. That saying stayed with him for life. After his mother recovered, he returned home and opened a small electronics repair shop. He still woke early, brewed tea, recited Buddha's name, and maintained a gentle smile. Customers coming for repairs saw him happy and meticulous, and gradually grew to like him. Although his life was simple, his mind was no longer burdened. He told me, "In the past, I stayed up late, seeking joy in illusions. Now I wake early, seeking peace in my breath. In the past, I lived for myself. Now I live to make up for the years my mother cried for me." I looked at him and saw a light, not of success, but of awakening. That light radiated from within, from a mind that had repented and learned to change. I suddenly remembered the Buddha's teaching. A clear mind, a clear life. One who cultivates oneself creates blessings for 3 generations. Tuan is a testament to that. When he changed himself, his mother found peace, his home was calm, and those around him were also positively influenced. A person who knows how to live kindly is a lamp illuminating many others. Everyone in this life has been lost. But what is precious is not that we have never made mistakes, but that we know when to stop at the right time. Some people are lost their whole lives because they refuse to stop. Some awaken in a single moment and save their entire life. Those 3 bad habits sound simple, but they are 3 doors leading to the loss of blessings. If we do not close them, sleeping late weakens the body. Laziness weakens the will. Alcohol and sensuality cloud the mind and diminish morality. Evil thoughts darken the heart and destroy blessings. But when we know how to turn back, to live purely, to nurture a kind heart, blessings naturally fill us again. One morning, as Tuan was sweeping the temple courtyard, I asked, "Are you still afraid of losing blessings now?" He looked at the sky and smiled. "I am no longer afraid of losing blessings, because I have learned to keep my mind clear. When the mind is clear, blessings cannot be lost." Those words stayed with me forever. Indeed, blessings are not far away. They lie in every thought, every good deed, every peaceful breath each morning. Finally, as we parted, Tuan spoke a sentence that I consider a message for everyone. If anyone is living in darkness, please don't be afraid. Just open your eyes and you will see dawn right within your heart. And I understood that this is the spirit the Buddha taught, that amidst suffering, there is still light. Amidst mistakes, there is still an opportunity to return. When we know how to cultivate ourselves, we are creating blessings for all 3 generations, for our parents in the present, for our children and grandchildren in the future, and for our own soul in the hereafter. For blessings are not merely wealth, but a benevolent energy, a cool stream that flows through many generations. The crystal clear morning in the mountain region, mist still lingering on the bamboo leaves. The gentle wind softly touched the brown robes of the monks on their alms round. The sun had just emerged from behind the distant mountain peak, the first light of day weaving through the tree canopies, reflecting on the still lake like a mirror, reflecting the entire sky and earth. In that moment, we feel something very deep. Everything in life operates according to an invisible law, and that is karma. No one can escape karma, because karma is not outside, but lies within the mind of each person. When we initiate a thought, whether good or evil, it is like a raindrop falling onto the surface of a lake, creating ripples that spread far. Sometimes it's the gentle ripple of compassion. Sometimes it's the hidden wave of greed, anger, and delusion. All our lives we run, worry, and calculate to find happiness, forgetting that our actions, words, and thoughts today are silently weaving the fabric of our destiny. People often say that in life, what goes around comes around. But in Buddhism, karma is not punishment, but a lesson for awakening, for us to look back at ourselves. When we were young, we were easily sad, easily blamed, easily felt injustice. We saw people doing wrong things, yet living happily. We saw kind people suffering, and then our hearts became suspicious. But the more we go through changes, the more we experience losses. The more we understand that karma is never wrong. Everything comes at the right time it needs to, so we can learn the lesson we have never understood. Karma is not meant to scare us, but to teach us how to transform, how to live more kindly, how to open our hearts, and how to forgive. In those days, we once asked why, even when we did good things, life still didn't become gentler. An old monk smiled, his eyes gentle as a new moon, and said, "My child, it's not that what you sow today you reap today. Some seeds need the rainy season, some need sunlight, some need to lie in the ground for a very long time before sprouting. But once you have sown good seeds, heaven will never abandon you." When we heard those words, we suddenly felt our hearts settle. Karma is not destiny. Karma is the imprints of actions. But the Buddha taught that humans can transform karma with wisdom and compassion. A person who has done wrong, but if they know how to repent, how to live kindly, how to confess and reform, then the flow of karma will change like water, changing direction with a new current. Just like someone who has lost their way, as long as they stop and turn towards the light, every step thereafter will lead them to the right path. I always remember the story of a woman named Lien, who lived in a small riverside village. Her life was a series of suffering and resentment. Her husband died early, and her son fell into many bad habits. She blamed heaven, blamed people. Every day she went to the temple just to complain. One afternoon, the venerable monk in the temple gently said, "Look at that river. The water still flows, even if garbage falls into it. If your heart knows how to flow like water, then the trash of suffering will no longer linger." From that day on, Ms. Lien began to practice stillness. Every morning, she swept the temple courtyard. Every afternoon, she watered the lotus flowers. Every evening, she meditated and chanted the Buddha's name. After a few months, people saw a smile return to her face. Her son also gradually changed, voluntarily working to take care of his mother. People said she was blessed, but in reality, that was when she learned to transform karma with her own peaceful heart. Karmic force is like the wind, invisible yet felt. Sometimes the wind is favorable and the boat sails fast. Sometimes the wind is against us and we have to paddle hard. But if we know how to let go, not to resist, but to go with the flow, we will pass through the waves without sinking. Liberation is not escaping from life, but understanding that all suffering has a cause, and we choose to live serenely amidst countless changes. Someone asked, "Is serenity enduring suffering?" No. Serenity is not meekly enduring pain, but understanding through awakening. When we understand the law of cause and effect, we no longer resent. When we know that everything arises from karmic connections, we no longer fear. Like one who knows it's about to rain, doesn't run away, but prepares a rain hat. When the mind knows how to accept, suffering is no longer a burden, but a friend who teaches us to grow. We witnessed a man named Lum, who had done wrong in the past, causing others harm. After realizing it, he didn't run away, nor did he endlessly blame himself, but quietly did good deeds, helping those in need. He said, "I cannot erase the past, but I can rewrite the present with good things." 10 years later, people no longer remembered his past mistakes, but only remembered a kind man who always helped others. That is the power of transforming karma. In Buddhist teachings, there is a saying, "When the mind is pure, the environment is pure." When our mind is at peace, all karma also stops. Karma cannot control a person who knows how to live in mindfulness, who knows how to keep their mind like an autumn lake without ripples. Because when the heart no longer has greed, anger, or delusion, karma has no place to cling, just as a seed needs soil to grow. If our mind is pure soil, bad karmic seeds cannot sprout. The Buddha once taught, "No lamp can shine as brightly as wisdom. No water can wash as clean as compassion." Wisdom helps us recognize the causes of karma. Compassion helps us resolve it. A practitioner is not someone who no longer has karma, but someone who knows how to smile at karma. When sick, we know it's the fruit of the body. When suffering, we understand it's a lesson for the mind. When losing, we see it as an opportunity to let go. One day, looking back at the journey we've taken, we suddenly realize how many times suffering once made us feel like giving up. In reality, it was precisely the door leading to peace. If we hadn't stumbled, we wouldn't know how to stand up. If we hadn't shed tears, we wouldn't understand what a genuine smile is. Each person is walking their own karmic path, but as long as they walk with a kind heart and an awakened mind, that path will transform into a path of liberation. In the evening, as the sun gradually sets behind the bamboo grove, we hear the temple bell ring out in the quiet space. Each chime is a breath of heaven and earth, a reminder not to fight against life, but to understand life. Because once we understand, we will see that everything has its karmic connection. There is birth and death, coming and going. We are merely temporary travelers, stopping at the inn of human existence, learning to smile at the wind, at the rain, and at ourselves. The enlightened one no longer asks why we suffer, but only asks, "What will I do so that this suffering does not recur?" At that moment, the heart will naturally settle, because suffering is not external. Suffering lies in how we see it. A rainstorm can make some sad because they get wet, but it can also make others happy because the fields are watered. It's the same event, but different minds perceive different realities. So don't fear karma. Look at karma with the eyes of understanding. Do good, speak kindly, think good thoughts. Every day is an opportunity for us to lighten our karma. Every mindful breath is one step closer to liberation. When the mind is at peace, karma subsides. When the heart is clear, life naturally settles. If one day we feel that everything around us is difficult, stop, breathe deeply, listen to our heart. Don't resent, don't complain. Just softly say, "I understand now. This is the fruit of past causes. I vow to live kindly, to sow good seeds again." At that moment, karma will lighten like mist dissolving in the morning sun, like a lake receiving every raindrop, not choosing which is clean or dirty, just silently accepting and returning everything with its stillness. If humans can live like a lake, knowing how to accept all changes with an unattached mind, then even if life brings storms, they will remain serene. And in the end, we realize that liberation is not leaving the world, but being in the world with a peaceful heart. One who knows how to accept is not weak, but one who has deeply understood cause and effect, who has clearly seen that everything comes to teach us to love more, to understand more, and to let go more. When we understand this, we smile, no longer afraid, no longer resentful. Only gratitude remains. Gratitude to karma for giving us the opportunity to awaken. Gratitude to suffering for showing us the value of joy. Gratitude to life for showing us the presence of the Buddha in every person, every scene, every breath. Finally, we clasp our hands, bow our heads, and dedicate all the merits of this understanding to all sentient beings. May everyone who hears this suffer less. May everyone who is suffering find serenity. Keep your mind calm and your heart at peace. and life naturally lightens.